Hello, I'm Andy Millard, and this is TFAC Talks, presented by the Tryon Fine Arts Center. We've been checking in with some folks in the Tryon area who are involved in the arts, and our guest today is Beau Menetre. He is a co-founder of the Tryon International Film Festival. He's also technical director and partner with Blue Dog Productions. Beau studied multimedia and graphic design at the Art Institute of Atlanta. He specializes in live event technology, TV and film production, and corporate event management. His clients have included the U.S. Marine Corps, American Express, Mack Trucks, and Lockheed Martin. Big stuff. And he and his wife, Ashley, live right here in little old Tryon, North Carolina. So thanks so much for visiting with us today, Beau.
Well, Andy, thank you for having me. And thank you on behalf of the Tryon Fine Arts Center for having such a wonderful program like this that you're initiating. And I think if anybody knows just how many wonderful, talented people we have in the arts community here in Tryon, it's you.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. And now, regarding you, and particularly, one of the things I was really interested in talking about today is the Tryon International Film Festival, TRIFF. You and your partners kind of founded TRIFF almost 5 years ago, and I know I've heard you talk about how that fifth year is really an important milestone for any kind of a film festival. You have a worldwide festival, and we're currently dealing with a worldwide health crisis. So how has that kind of impacted the festival?
Well, sure. Well, it has been successful. We had a wonderful fifth year. We had filmmakers from India, Nepal, from London. So we had a wonderful 2019. Now, that being said, going into 2020, we had a lot of momentum. That was we were really excited, and we opened up our film submissions January 2nd, and we've already received almost 65 films to date. So the film submissions is very active. But that being said, we came to a halt as a world globally, and and that's we're very cautiously optimistic, I think is a good word for it, as far as the live portion of the film festival. The gathering in October at the theaters, the venues, and the parties, and so we're cautiously optimistic because what does the world look like in 5 months versus what did it look like 2 months ago?
Yeah.
So we understand, and we're also very realistic that that we're going to have to maybe take some options off the table, or if we do have the live event, then we're going to have to scale it down. From 7 venues maybe to 2 venues. Maybe 65 films to 25 films. And I think that's also from a volunteer standpoint, operations and logistics, that we need to be very realistic on what we're allowed to do in October. But that being said, we're going to look for the advice and the guidance of our community partners like the Tryon Theater and the Fine Arts Center, Upstairs Art Space, Parson Financial, all Carrie Bass, all the people that have been supportive of us and letting us use their venues. To local town officials, and most importantly, health experts. And what can we do to maintain that health standard and be compliant in holding a live event? So those are all things that we're taking into consideration, and we're giving us a little bit of time right now to make that ultimate decision. But right now, I think the word is cautiously optimistic that the world will want to come together for an event like this in October. And we prefer not to postpone, because I think what makes our festival great is the fact that it's in Western North Carolina in fall, and it's certainly the most beautiful time to be in this area. But we are looking at a digital option, an online platform. I have a call after this one that we're working with a company that helps model and customize platforms for film festivals. So we're looking at pivoting, so we can continue to serve our filmmakers and our audience. But most importantly, it's about community safety. So we're optimistic, but we're also very excited, and we have a lot of downtime, which I can work on stuff like this and not wait till the last minute like I have in the past.
Yeah, well, your regular business, your regular gig is, I believe, working mostly with corporate events. which have essentially shut down, dead in the water right now. And well, you could talk about that, but I'm also interested in why you and Ashley chose to move to Tryon. You do a job that you have to travel. I mean, to do your job, you got to travel. So what brings you to Tryon, and why do you live in Tryon instead of any place else in the world?
Well, Andy, I'm glad you asked that question. And I've told this story many times because in my opinion, it's a feel-good story. But to make a short story long is what I like to say. Is we've been in the community for going on 8 years now. And we lived in Atlanta, where that's where my wife's from and that kind of stuff. But, based on my career, I didn't need to live in Atlanta to work. And my wife and I wanted to go on that ultimate search for quality of life. And mistakenly, we stayed the weekend in Tryon, looking, we rented a house and maybe looking at, Henderson, Brevard area. And then we came up for the weekend, and it was in February. It happened to snow. So I said, this is a beautiful town here. Why don't we spend the weekend here in Tryon?
Groundhog Day. It's like Groundhog Day.
And so we, that Sunday driving back to Atlanta, I asked the family, I said, how about Tryon? And everybody raised their hand. And 4 months later, we put everything in a truck and moved over. But it was truly a search for quality of life. And there's something in the water here in Tryon where actually my story is not very uncommon. I hear it all the time. Somebody drives through the town, they make a U-turn and go to a real estate office. And my wife said, look, we're starting our life over. I want you to get involved in something, to get out and meet people. And so I was very fortunate in Atlanta to work with a lot of film production and watch how Georgia implemented, the economic projects like the tax incentives and tax breaks for film companies to come in, and watching programs like that really be an economic impact for communities. And so I just kind of poking around, and I think the first person I met was Chris Armbrust, who was an economic developer at the time. And I said, do you have a film liaison in the area? And he said, well, that's me, but if you want to do something, feel free to to initiate a project. And I met Kirk and Lavin at the time and started a little nonprofit. And 6 years later, we have a global film festival. But to go back to your question about, my career, absolutely. In fact, it's been a pretty devastating year for my family. Going back to, we tragically lost our daughter back at Christmas time.
Right.
And so then I'm looking at losing a career of 20 years. And my wife is a local retail art gallery owner in town, and she is non-essential, and we've had our doors closed for 2 months. So we've had to pivot, and we've had to shift and look for alternatives on how to maintain not just our sanity, but our lifestyle. And honestly, to go back to the reason we're on the phone now, the film festival is my passion. And right now I feel an obligation to hold on to that and to continue to see that, to grow and be successful. But honestly, Andy, I would not want to be involved in a film festival if it wasn't in Tryon, because there's something about this community that inspires me.
Well, to me, it kind of just indicates your personal resilience, your family's resilience, but you are also an example of a lot of people right here in town, right here in Polk County, in North Carolina, across the globe, who are going through their own personal adjustments right now. And some of them are, huge, and some of them are smaller. But I'm also inspired by you and Ashley and your family, and really what you've been going through and how you're dealing with it. So please keep it up. We're proud to have you in Tryon and in Polk County. And folks, if you want to learn more about the Tryon International Film Festival, you can go to tryoninterntionalfilmfestival.org. Isn't that right, or is it .com?
.com or .org. I think I bought both of them.
Okay, .com or .org. Tryon International Film Festival. Beau, thank you so much. Thanks again.
Have a wonderful day. Take care, Andy.
Yes, and thank you for watching this edition of TFAC Talks. Stay safe, and for everybody at the Tryon Fine Arts Center, I'm Andy Millard. We'll see you next time.